You know, if you want to get low prices and high quality, that comes from the market. It never comes from the government. You know, since one of the things that's been coming up recently quite a bit, maybe it's good to talk about it since you guys are all students, is education. Education is a perfect example of where the government gets involved and drives the prices through the roof. I mean, the government gets involved in the education process because college tuition is so expensive. And so politicians get elected by promising more aid for education. And then the students and the students' parents will vote for those politicians because they say, well, college is so expensive, I need that aid. And so I'm going to vote for whatever politician is going to help more student loans and more programs. But no one stops to realize that the only reason college is so expensive in the first place is because of all those government programs. That without the programs, people wouldn't need the loans. People wouldn't need the scholarships or because they can afford to go. But the government comes in. I mean, normally markets drive prices down. You think, why is tuition at universities higher today? You know, I just recently I did record a video blog, and I looked at the tuitions at Yale in the past, and I noticed that, you know, for the first 45 years that Yale charged tuition, it was the exact same price. It was $33 a year, and it never went up for 40. And then it went up a little bit, but by 1870 or something, it had gone up to about $140 a year. And then 45 years later, it got to $160. So it took like 45 more years to go up 15%. Right? Now, of course, the tuition was like $35,000. It's gone up, 100 times. You know, it only tripled in the 19th century, and it's gone up 100 times in the 20th century. So what happened? What changed? Right? Why were tuitions so stable, and now they're going through the roof? The only thing that changed is the government tried to make them affordable. And it drove it through the roof. Because what does the government do? The government gives kids money to go to school. And so what do? They build up the price. The government makes it so you can go to a bank and borrow as much money as you want to go to school. So you have an unlimited amount of money to bid up prices. So all the students are competing with everybody with government money to see who can pay the most. And the colleges say, this is a great deal for us, so every year they jack tuitions up. And that's why they do it. Every year we just raise our price. You know, college tuitions are actually up about 7% this year, in the biggest recession since the Great Depression, and they're still rising. How can that be? Government, that's why. The Federal Reserve buying up all the student loans. Now I think about it, how many people in this room who are in school, if they couldn't get any money, if they couldn't borrow any money, how many people can actually afford to go to school? If you can afford it, raise your hand without a loan. I said nobody, one guy in the back. So what do you think would happen if all of a sudden, the only reason you can get loans is because the government guarantees them. Otherwise, nobody would be dumb enough to make the loans. And if they did, the rates would be so high you wouldn't want to borrow. So no one in this room would be going to school. So if I stop those government loans tomorrow, right? All of a sudden, the universities, no one's going to apply. Now, so what are they going to do? Are they just going to close down? No, they're going to slash tuitions. First of all, they have a big fixed cost. They have an empty classroom, right? If they take tuition down from $20,000 to $2,000, $2,000 is better than nothing. It's better than, they're not going to get any tuition from an empty chair. So the first rule of business is get some revenues in. They need revenues. Any revenue is better than no revenue, right? It's because the marginal cost of that extra it's practically nothing. They've already gotten all the costs. Right? So they slash their tuition. So now tuitions collapse. Why aren't they collapsing now? Because they don't have to. Because people will pay the price. Now, the minute that happens, then what are the universities going to do? All right, well, we're not making any money. We're only charging $2,000 a year. What can we do? Now they're going to cut costs. They're going to go through and see, who can we fire? Who don't we need? And they go to these tenured professors and say, you know what? We're not paying you all this money. We can't afford it. Cut your salary. Everybody gets a pay cut. They get efficient. And you know what? The colleges can make money again at a low tuition. Right now, there is no market for low-cost college. Why should there be? The students have all the money. But, and of course, if it becomes an election issue, my opponents say, oh, Peter Schiff is against student loans. He's against students. He's against education. No, I'm against the educational establishment ripping off the students. Because student loans don't help the students. They have to pay back the loans. They help the colleges. The colleges get the money. The kids are stuck with the bills. So it's a perfect example of the government coming in and creating a problem where it didn't exist. They did the same thing with healthcare. Why is healthcare so expensive? The same reasons. Healthcare should be getting cheaper, just like college. It should be cheaper today to go to school than it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Why? Well, 30 years ago, they were still using typewriters. They didn't have computers. They were using, carbon copies. They had things on little index cards to keep records. The teachers had to grade the papers by hand. It was much more complicated. Schools are all about record keeping. And delivering a lecture, you could, with the internet, and especially when there are so many kids in college today. When you have more economies of scale, it should be cheaper. It should be cheaper to educate 10,000 kids per kid than 100. To say that, well, the universities are bigger now, that's why it's more. It should be cheaper because it's more. And I said, it's funny. Not only has the government driven up the cost of the college degree, but it's driven down the value of the college degree. Because now so many people have them that they mean nothing. In 1940 or 1950, if you had a high school degree, that was pretty good. You could get probably 95% of all jobs with a high school degree. Now a college degree means nothing. You got to get a master's degree. You got to get a doctorate. So you're in school for 8 years, 10 years. How much money do you borrow to get a master's or a doctorate? So you can't even compare a 4-year university tuition today to what it was 40 years ago because they're night and day. They don't. And I would bet, with all the people going to school, that they've dumbed it down anyway. I'd be willing to bet if we just randomly tested high school graduates in 1940, 1950, in math or English or whatever, and compared them to graduates of our universities today, the high school kids back then probably would test higher. They probably knew more. So, all we've done, all of this money for education, all of this has just benefited the educational system, the bureaucracies of our universities and our schools. It hasn't benefited kids who now are forced to stay in college longer, learn less, and get stuck with a horrific bill. My father worked his way through school, and most of our fathers, if your parents didn't have money, you worked your way through school. How did you work your way through school? You had a job. You had a job in the summer. You waited tables, you bussed tables, you delivered pizza, you delivered groceries. You didn't have a fancy job. But you know what? That little bit of money paid for the whole thing. Nobody borrowed money to go to school. It wasn't until the government got involved and everybody borrowed. And now it costs a fortune. Anyway, any other questions? Yeah.
I have a political question. Your message is really honest and it's really realistic.